Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for another jewelry making class from Blue Moon Studio. Today, we are playing with UV resin and we are making some spooky fun earrings that you guys are going to love. So we're going to show you all the basics of UV resin, all the basics of jewelry making, but this class includes some advanced techniques of working with UV resin where we are going to be adding extra resin, popping it out of the mold, adding two molds together, kind of a little next level for those of you that are interested in UV resin crafting or have made jewelry before. My name is Stephanie Menor. I'm here representing Blue Moon Studio. Let's have some fun. So let's switch to the top-down camera, take a look at some of the earrings that we're going to be making. So we have these gory looking eyeballs that are so fun to make. These cute little black cats, those are wire whiskers with a little heart nose. And this one has a little bit of dimension to it. So I'll show you how to create that little popped out nose. And some boo earrings that are just scary. These are a little spooky here. We've got some blood drips. We're going to show you how to do all of that. So let me clean these up. And let's go through the items that you're going to need to craft along with us today. So first of all, this blue thing down here, this is actually a silicone mat. And you'll see that a lot of the things we're working with today are silicone because cured UV resin doesn't stick to silicone. So we have silicone cups. We use these for mixing. They're nice and flexible. I have a bunch of cups because we need to mix up a bunch of colors. We're going to be mixing red, white, black, blue, and using clear resin. Also, in the silicone world, we have some silicone molds. These are everything we're using is from Michaels, available on michaels.com and available in the jewelry making section in store. So these are clear silicone molds. Do not use opaque silicone molds. They just do not work with UV resin. So these are some of the shapes that we're going to be working with today. We have a bunch of earring findings over here that we're going to use. We have some wire, but here is the star of the show. This is UV resin. So this is the big bottle of UV resin. This is the 200 milliliter bottle. So this is the biggest one that Michaels carries. And then we have a UV light. So I can hit that and that turns on for 1 minute. It'll turn off after a minute and we'll talk about cure times. But this resin is, if you've worked with two-part resin in the past, this is not that. This is just pours out of the bottle directly into the mold, ready to go. There's no mixing of two parts or measuring very, carefully. It just pours out ready to go into the mold unless you want to add some color. So if you do want to add color, you're going to use something that looks like this. This is what all these products look like in stores, the blue package. And these are some resin tints. So we're going to be using all of these colors today, white, black, red, and blue from another package. I have a couple other tools over here. I have some wood sticks. I have a little drill, some cutting things to cut some wire, and a pair of flat jewelry pliers. So we might pull out some extra special surprises along the way, but those are the basics that you're going to need. So let's get started with our first project. So our first project is going to be these boo letters. So you need BOO for each earring. And that starts with this mold. So you can see the letters are reversed there. So when we pop it out, it will be the correct way. So let's get a bowl and we're going to pour straight from our bottle of resin into that bowl. And I don't need a ton. I'm going to pour about that much. That's enough for the letters that I'm making and some of the red bloody stuff that we're going to need for our eyeball earrings. So you can see that it pours out completely clear and we want to add some color. So this is where we go into our tints. These are special tints made to work with UV resin. So you want to give them a little bit of a shake and And if this is your first time using it, which it is mine, this is a new package, you do want to snip the top off with some scissors. So I'm going to start with 3 drops in there. These tints are very concentrated, so it's better to do less and then see if you need to add more. So just with those 3 drops, we're going to get a really rich, gory, bloody color. We're going there today, folks. So I hope you like all this fun Halloween stuff. So do you see what color this is? It's not too dark. It's still got translucency to it. And that's about what I want. The other thing that I didn't mention is I always keep a paper towel on the side here. And basically every time I'm dipping my stick into something, I'm wiping it off on a paper towel. That's just so I don't get resin all over my work surface. Okay, so here is our letter mold. I'm going to zoom you in just a little bit so you can get a front row view here. Here's our letter B. So this is a very fine mold, meaning there are very small little crevices for that resin to flow into, but it's actually pretty easy. I use my stick here and just drop a drop in there and see it kind of just like goes into the correct area without too much mess. So I'm dropping it in and it's going to find its way. It's going to flow downhill down into those crevices. Okay, there's our B. Let's also do an O here. Easier to go drop by drop with a wood stick or a toothpick than to try to pour. I mean, this does have a pour spout, and that will come in handy. We'll use that on some of the larger molds. But on these really fine molds, you want to go drop by drop. Okay. So moving that off to the side, I'm going to wipe this end of the stick and then switch it around to this pointed end. And I don't know, I just kind of like to poke at it a little bit. I just want to make sure I didn't like have any air pockets in there where the resin didn't flow. And if you've overfilled your mold slightly, this looks a little overfilled, I can just like take a tiny little bit out and that's the perfect amount. This B, if it looks like I've overfilled it slightly, you can just take a little tiny bit out and that's all it needs. Okay. And now we bring in our UV lamp. So let me zoom you back out. Okay, so turning on that lamp, putting the mold underneath the lamp, you notice it is perfectly sized to fit under there. And this is gonna go for 2 minutes. So your cure times are gonna be anywhere from 2 to 4 minutes, I would say. This is a 9-watt UV lamp. It plugs into a USB input, either in a laptop or however you charge your cell phone would have a USB input. And because I've added tint to this and it's a little bit of a darker color, I'm going to go for 2 minutes. You can also cure in sunlight. If you live in a sunny area, if you're crafting during the day, put it on a sunny windowsill and within 5 to 10 minutes, it's going to be cured. So once it's cured, it will be hard. I have this B that I made earlier. So it's hard, like hard plastic, like glass. And so it makes a wonderful crafting material. You can see this ran for a minute, that turned off. I'm going to turn that on for the second minute. So it's a wonderful crafting material because this is like instant crafting. We are creating something from scratch within 2 minutes that I can use to connect to other things and turn into jewelry. So this is what, for those of you that love like instant gratification crafts, this one is for you. I'm not one who likes to craft something and then like pop it out of the mold 3 days later. I want to do it now. I'm sitting down to craft. I want to make some jewelry quick. And that is the benefit of UV resin. All right, so we are going to let that go. And I'm actually going to bring in some B's and O's that I made earlier. And I have them stuck on this piece of tape here just to stick them on something. And I'm going to eventually throw that piece of tape away once I unstick these. Now these are done. And so I just want to show you in real time. Here's my B that I just made. I'll put that there. And another O. I'm going to leave that one to the side. All right, so I have some B's and some O's here in various states of readiness. So you can see this B and this O. I have already added some little drips of extra resin too. And we do that drip by drip. So we go back into our resin. Now, while this was curing, I put this resin, excuse me, off to the side because I still want to use this. I don't want that UV light to hit it. So I have that off to the side. And so we're adding some spooky little drips. And this is kind of up to you to add as much or as little as you want. So picking some spots on this B where I can make it look like it's dripping and kind of dripping off the edge like that. Let's do some on the O. Ooh, that one dripped a lot. And then we want to make these letters look too perfect. So we want to make them just like a little wavy. Okay, so that's enough. We're going to do this 2 times. So we don't have to get all of our drips on there on the first time. Let's bring our light in and let's cure that. I'm going to push it off to the side here so I can show you some cool stuff in the meantime. So UV resin, I'm going to show you some examples. These are recent class projects that we've done over the last few months. So we did some back to school. So this is an example of using just clear resin to encase things in it. This was like a teacher's little necklace lanyard project with real safety pins and push pins and little confetti stars in there. And this was placed into a mold with just some clear resin. So you can entrap things in the resin. And the list is almost endless of what those things are. The only thing we suggest do not put in resin is fresh flowers. You can use dried flowers to your heart's content. Here's a great piece. Just with a simple little sprig there. I'll let that go another minute. And so dried flowers, not fresh flowers. And pretty much everything else you can think of can be put inside the resin. Here's another example. This is blue tinted resin. You can see it has some translucency to it. This was for a galaxy class that we did, where we used some glitter, a little metal star, and some confetti stars too. All right, so this has gone almost 2 minutes. Let's see what we have here. And then I can decide to make it gorier and drippier, which I think I'm going to add a little bit more drippiness up here so you can build up on the areas where you've already dripped to make them a little more like that. Like that. We're getting really gruesome here, folks. All right, just a little more. Every time you do it is going to be a little bit different. We're going to let that go again. In fact, I'm going to let this go off to the side for 2 minutes. And we are going to start on our second earring. We're going to be kind of working 2 earrings at the same time. The second earring that we're going to do is this guy here, which is so fun. It has several steps. So this actually uses 2 molds. I'm going to show you from the side. The first mold is this white disc, and then we have this black dome at the top. And then we're going to hand paint some things on there in blue resin, in red paint. We're going to use acrylic paint here. But it all starts with this mold. You zoom me back out. So this mold, this is where we get that disc. So imagine that that sat in there. And this mold also has this shape in there, which is a half sphere or a dome. Okay, so this is the mold we're going to be using. We need to mix up some white. So I'm going to get a fresh silicone cup and a little bit of resin from the bottle. And we're going to go in with some white. Always giving the tints a little shake. And especially with these opaque colors, we don't want to make our mixture here completely opaque. So I don't want to dump a ton of white in there. Let's mix this up and see what we have. We still want it to have some translucency. So do you see that it's not perfectly white? I don't know if it shows perfectly on camera, but it's not completely white like whiteout or like acrylic paint white. That's because if you make your color completely opaque, you're blocking all the UV rays from getting down in there. And so it's not going to cure correctly for you, or it might take a really, really long time to cure. So I'm going to show you some little tips and tricks to avoid that. So the first tip is that even though this isn't perfectly translucent, it's still, I mean, perfectly opaque, it's still semi-opaque. So I'm not going to fill my mold all the way to the top. I'm going to fill it just until I have a nice layer of white. So if I'm working with pure white or pure black, I would do this technique where I only fill the mold part way with that really intense color. But I do want to make sure that it gets all the way to the edges there. So this mold, I think if I put another drop in there, this mold is about halfway full. And that's fine because we're going to cure it in two parts. We're going to cure the white. So now I have a thin layer of white down there. And then we're going to add clear to the back of it to fill the mold. And so this just avoids any problem that you might have of filling the whole thing with opaque white. And what it'll do is it'll cure on the outside. But the inside will still have liquid resin. So we want to avoid that. So curing in layers, like I'm showing you here, that's your friend. All right, jumping back to our boo earrings. We can just peel this off of our tape. All right, those are the letters that I like. And so now we need to connect them together. So we are going to need some earring parts. So a really fun thing to use for Halloween jewelry is black bindings. So these, again, available at Michael's. In their finding section, we're going to need ear wire at the top there. We're going to need some jump rings to connect these. And in fact, to space our letters out a little better, we're actually going to use several jump rings. Let me show you our example. So connecting this B to the next letter, we have a jump ring that goes through the letter, and then you have a jump ring that connects those. So there's actually 3 jump rings in between here. All right, so let's do it. You're going to need some pliers when you're working with jump rings. And using our larger jump ring, I'm going to go through the top and connect my ear wire. So if you just wanted a bee earring, there you go. So let's spell out a whole word. We're going to use another large jump ring to go through the bottom of that bee. And conveniently, the letter B already has holes for us to put these jump rings through. And you can always use a second set of pliers if you don't want to keep opening and closing jump rings with your fingers. All right, we need another larger jump ring for the top of this O. And I'm going through this quickly, but you'll see when I open the jump ring, I'm opening one side toward me, one side away from me, like a spring, like a coil that goes around. And I can actually close this jump ring. You can close it with your fingers or with two pliers. You want to make sure it's closed. Sometimes you might need to give it a little squeeze. So to connect this to this, I'm going to use a smaller jump ring. Open this. There you go. So adding that series of jump rings also helps for all of your letters to be front faced. All right, another bigger jump ring around our bottom O. And let's close that up. And then we're going to make the final connection with a smaller jump ring. So the sizes that I'm working with here are about, these are about 6 mm and 4 mm jump rings. Oops, forgot one jump ring. Has to go around the bottom of that O. And let's connect these. Boo. Spooky. Obviously, you can spell out any word like this. The O's make it really easy, and the B's, because they have a natural place to thread the jump ring through. If your letter for your word that you want to create does not have that natural place, I'm going to show you how to get around it. So here's a B that I made, and I kind of accidentally filled in the center with my extra bloody resin. What you'll need is a hand drill in that case. So this is also sold in the UV resin craft section at Michael's. So you would want to drill through. And this hand drill makes really quick work of it. You can just drill right through. And that makes a perfect 1.5 mm hole at the top of that. Okay. All right, so that's one earring down. We have a few more to go. If you have any questions, please do ask them in the chat. I try to look up and see your questions. I can't always see them, but we do have some folks on the line who are going to be helping do that. So back to our eyeball. So here, just to review what we've done, is we've taken white, clear resin, added white pigment to it, and filled about half of that. And now I'm just going to fill the back of it with clear straight from the bottle. And again, this is just so you don't have that problem of your resin curing on the outside and not on the inside when you use like very intense colors. Sorry, I poked at this because I saw a little bubble. Let's put that back under. Okay, so you are also going to want to mix up a black color. And when I say black, this is the color that I mean. You can see it's not perfectly black. I don't want to get it too close to this UV light because it'll start to clump up in here. Do you see it's more of a charcoal color? And let me just pause this for a second. And you want to fill in this half dome. This is going to be the pupil of our eye, if you haven't guessed. And now those can cure together. Okay, while that's going, I'm going to show you a couple other things that I have to the side here that we've made. This is another Halloween themed. This is from a skull keychain mold that I believe might be discontinued. But this is a larger size mold. We've used some dried flowers and some little metal pieces and some sparkly resin that we've added glitter to. And it created this super cool skull shape. So outside of Halloween world, you can also create some beautiful everyday jewelry. So this is a hoop earring from we have a couple different hoop earring molds available in stores. And this uses seed beads. So for those of you that love the look of seed beaded jewelry, but lack the skills and patience to sew on tiny little beads, bead by bead, like me, you can get the look of seed bead jewelry just by sprinkling them in a mold and pouring in some resin. A few minutes later, this pops out. And then, of course, you do need to add a metal piece onto the end here. Okay, so that's another thing. Here's another example of a hoop. This is just kind of your simple circle hoop, which we've done like an ombre with some glitter. And you add this piece on after it pops out of the mold. And you glue that on with more UV resin. UV resin is a wonderful adhesive in the world of miniatures, modeling, scale modeling, that type of thing. Great adhesive. All right, while that's still going, I'm going to show you a few more little show and tell items over here. So this is a pair of earrings where we've used a leaf mold and then just added a bead at the bottom of it. So you get that movement and it really elevates it when you add on beads and other components. All right, so this has gone for a few minutes. So you'll notice when it comes out of the mold, which it does have that little crevice in there because I kind of poked at it right when I turned the light on. But you'll notice when it comes out, it's warm. Like this is very warm to the touch. That's natural. That is just a side effect of the curing process. It creates heat. So this is very warm. So we always say like kind of let it cool for a minute before you go popping it out. But let's see what we got here. We have a perfect white disc. And if I look at it from the side, you'll see that half white, half clear in the back. We're gonna cover those sides, so don't worry about that for now. But we have a perfect white disc, and we have a perfect little black half dome. So eventually that's going to go on there like that. But we have some work to do before we're going to join the two. Some fun work. Okay, so what we're going to do next is create a little bit of a blue color for I guess that would be the iris. And adding this blue color really makes it look like an eyeball. So it is definitely worth it. Now, I will tell you our blue tint is extremely strong. So proceed with caution. And when I say proceed with caution, this is how I mean it. I like to take a little piece of tape or a scratch piece of paper or something and actually dot the tint on there. That's how strong it is. I don't even want to use that whole dot. I'm going to grab some of that with my stick and then mix it in. I just need a very watery blue color. Maybe a little bit more. For some reason, this blue is extra strong. So just be careful. Maybe a little bit more blue. Better to add it little by little than to have too much. Maybe we will add more. I was a little overly cautious, but I would rather do that than put a whole drop in there and then you end up with this navy blue color. Then you have to dilute with resin. All right, just gonna put that in the trash. And here's our blue color. So I'm just gonna drop this blue color on here and I'm trying to aim for dead center. And that's about all I'm gonna put for right now, because this is what I'm gonna use to stick this on. And I want that blue color to still be around. So it's naturally kind of moving around. And I want to try to keep the blue area a perfect circle. This, you just want to take your time. You can kind of dip in and get a little more resin if you need to add to make it even. So like an iris and a pupil, exactly right. And I really want to perfect it because the minute I put it under that light, it's there for good. So right now I'm trying to make sure that the blue is a perfect circle, that it is centered, and that the black is perfectly centered within the blue. Okay. That's it, folks. We're going for it. Bring the light in. And I'm just going to cure this for 1 minute. And that's just kind of lock that in place. And then we get to do some fun painting. So for that painting, you want to get a cheap bottle of burgundy craft paint. This is the type of craft paint that's like $1. You don't need the fancy stuff here, but this is acrylic paint in a dark, dark red color. And you want to pour a tiny little bit of this out, or on my little trick here of using a piece of tape, because you literally need like 1 drop of paint. So no use in getting a paint palette out and dirtying that up. I just put 1 drop on a piece of tape and then I can throw the tape away. Okay. Oh, I didn't get it perfect. I didn't get it perfect, but that's okay. Hold on a sec. See what happened here? A little bit of blue kind of snuck out and I didn't see it. And now I've gotten paint everywhere. Hang on. That's okay. This is going to look really cute in the end. Okay, so now we get to paint some um veins. Thank you. Oh, could not think of the word. And I find the easiest way to paint is if you have a tiny, tiny paintbrush, sure, go ahead and use that. But I find just using the wood stick, you've seen me use this in almost every step of every process here. It's a great tool to have a bunch of on hand. So we just want to paint some really nasty looking Veins. And the more kind of like exaggerated they are, the better. Some of them kind of go sideways, like this. And they kind of like branch off. And at the ends, there's always like a little branchiness. Truly gruesome. I'm glad you guys are here with me and you like it. That's why Halloween is so fun. Okay, don't overthink it. Just make some branchy shapes that kind of originate around the outside, and it's gonna look like an eyeball. Okay, now you want to let this dry completely. Let me get rid of our drop of paint. So you want to let this dry completely. Unfortunately, this is just needs to dry in the regular air. This is not a UV resin product. It's regular old cheap craft paint. So we're going to let that dry for just a couple minutes. Acrylic paint does dry really quickly. And in the meantime, I'm going to show you some other fun stuff of things that we have made. So here is a pin. This is a pin, like a brooch that we made. You can kind of see from the back that we made it from a bunch of these teardrop shapes. Each one of these started in a mold, and we did a bunch of different colors. And then we glued them all together using more UV resin on the back there, including some little feet and some googly eyes. Super fun, super easy to combine multiple molds. One more pin for you. This one's super simple. Here's the back of it. So it's just a disc made of UV resin, and we added the pin with more resin. And this design, no, is not hand painted by myself. This is just a sticker that you can encapsulate inside the resin, like so many other things inside the resin. So any sticker is fair game. This one's like a paper sticker, but any sticker will work, like any of these, for example. So just go to the sticker aisle and you can use that with your UV resin creations. Okay, one more before we take the next step on our eyeball. So this is another example of a hoop earring shape that pops out of the mold. And this, which is also on theme for Halloween, is candy, little candy sprinkles. So those preserve very well inside of resin. All right, let's see what we got here. Is this dry? Yeah, it's pretty dry. All right, we're going to go to the next step. So for the next step, I'm going back to this red that I mixed up for our boo letters. And I am going to kind of dot this around the edges a little. This really gives it that bloodshot look. Some of it's going to drip over the side, and that's okay. We want that to happen organically. Okay. And I know that might look a little crazy to you right now, but the next step fixes it. So let me zoom you in. Center it. Okay, so now we are going to take clear resin over the top of the whole thing. And this will kind of smooth out our little um, pupil, black pupil dome that we've done. And it kind of softens the edges of that red that we've laid down. So I'm dropping this directly in the middle. And it is going to flow over the edges, but we're just going to be okay with that. See how it kind of like pushes that away and just makes it so like the outside edge is angry and red. We need another drop here. There we go. Okay, I like the way that looks. No adjustments, no notes. Let's lock it in. So let's bring that light to it. Now, this is, like I said, a USB. There also is another option in UV lamps, and that is a flashlight UV lamp that I can turn on like this. So that is handy if you just want to kind of quickly lock something in place. If you can't move the thing and you need to bring the light to the thing, this is a little more helpful since it's handheld. So I always want to show you guys that that is an option. But let's keep that under so I can see some of it dripping. It's super gruesome. It's awesome. But I'm going to move this to the side. And I have my silicone mat down here, which is protecting us. But I can kind of clean up that goopiness. So we're going to let that cook. We're going to let that go for a little bit. And then we're going to turn it into an earring. So that went for a minute. I'm just going to keep an eye on it. I'm going to move it off to the side so I have more working room to do another earring. This is the last earring that we're going to do together, and it uses this mold of fun shapes. And we're going to use this little cat. So I have this black that I had mixed up earlier. And I'm going to do the same trick that I did earlier, where I'm not going to fill the whole cat with black. I am just going to do it in layers. But in this case, because of the shape, it's like kind of a rounded shape. I'm going to start with the clear. So that when I put my layer of black on, it's the back of the cat head. And you see when I poured that out, I got like a couple little bubbles. You can just pop them like that. And then you can kind of tilt your mold so that the resin flows into the ears. Oops, I see another bubble there. Got it. Okay, so just clear. Let's cure it. I'm going to get the cat and the eyeball underneath the lamp at the same time. I'm going to let that go for another minute. All right, while that goes, a little more show and tell. So I want to, this was from a graduation class that we did. This is a mold. It's a shaker mold. So it's like a little bowl or a cup, and you can fill it with things. And it comes with an acetate sheet that's cut to size. And so you can make little shaker keychains. And so that's what we did here. We molded this gold, and then we stuck stuff in there. You can see it moving around. And then on top of the acetate sheet, which comes with the mold, perfectly shaped, we stuck some stickers on the top of there. So the possibilities are endless when it comes to a mold like this. This happens to be graduation themed, but you can do whatever you want. What other goodies do I have to show you? How about just like pretty? Let's go the pretty route. Instead of all this gory, gruesome stuff, here are some beautiful earrings that combine UV resin, dried flowers, and this little piece is made from polymer clay. Same with this earring. We also teach polymer clay jewelry making classes. So if you have any interest in that, check out the ones coming up in November. Michaels.com, you want to go to the classes and events page and look at online classes. And so we're always doing fun stuff. We do themed things, we do just pretty jewelry as well. Love these. Okay, so this has gone, how long did that go? About a minute? Well, I can see that that clear resin didn't flow. His little cheek got cut off. It's gonna be okay. You can just pour a little drop of resin in there. Cure him for another minute. Let's check out our eyeball. Okay, so this is done. We achieved a few drips, a little bit of drippage. I could have gone even harder on the sides there and dripped it more, but I think this is good. Let's check our hole that was at the top of there. It is still indeed a hole. I don't need to drill it out. So we're good. Let's turn it into an earring. So black findings would be great here. I'm actually going to use silver. Bringing in my giant thing of jump rings. And you want quite a large jump ring because this is quite thick. So we need to get through that. Oh, sorry guys. My light fell over and I knocked you guys over. Okay, whew, crisis averted. Okay, let's open up this jump ring. Through the eyeball. And before I close it, add your ear wire of choice. Close that up. And now you have a gruesome earring. Now you can go in with more paint, more of that acrylic paint along the edges and really make this look super gross on the edges. Let me show you another one. This was made by our jewelry designer. So you can see she achieved some really, a lot of drippiness on the sides there, and it just kind of adds to it. Love it. This was so fun. So fun. Love that one. Okay, back to our cat. So here's our half full mold. And I am actually going to need a little more black. So I'm going to mix some more black into this because we need it to fill the mold, but also in the next step. I'm just going to add one more drop in there. And you do want to mix it well. I'm always so impatient during these classes, so I'm really whipping that color in there. You want to avoid the whipping part, whipping it too fast, because what that can do is you're whipping air bubbles into it. So don't be like me and try to be rushing to the next step. Make sure it's fully incorporated without whipping air bubbles in. Okay, let's fill up the back of our cat. Moving this off to the side. Curing that in place. All right, so the next couple steps that we have to do with that cat once it cures is we need to add whiskers. Black wire works great for those. This is purple wire. I thought that looked kind of cool, and I had it in my stash. This is 26 gauge wire. So we want to cut some about a little less than 2 inches whiskers. And we're going to do 3 of them. So once that pops out, we are going to add all 3 whiskers to the front and sort of build up his nose, kind of like how we built up the blood drops on our boo letters. So I'm just taking all 3 wires and getting them together. Okay. Here's our cat. That went for 1 minute. I'd feel more comfortable if I did it for another minute, so I'm going to. While we look at our example earring here. So here's the cat head, and you can see his nose is kind of like popped out there, and a little heart charm added for the nose. The heart charm comes from a skew that looks like this. Has a bunch of different shapes in there. They are metal, lightweight metal charms. And I have some of them here. One of them here. Oh, the bee wants to come along for the ride. I have one right here. And then for your whiskers, I've tried it a few different ways. I've tried taking the 3 wires and kind of wrapping them together in the middle. It's a little more easy to manage than 3 separate wires, but again, this is up to you. I already kind of pre-wrap these together. And so that's what we're going to use. All right, here's our cat. The idea is that this is going to go here. The whiskers are quite large, but we're going to give them a haircut later. But right now, I just want to kind of mold them down so they will fit and not move around. All right, so I go back to that color that I mixed, and we're just going to drop 1 large drop right on top of that. And it's okay if it goes sideways, which this one did. I'll just make it look symmetrical and lock that in place. So we're going to keep doing this process of 1 drop and then curing it for 1 minute. 1 drop, 1 minute, until we build up the kind of like snout of the cat. And then the very last thing we're going to do, well, second to last thing, is we are going to add this little heart with clear on top, and then adjust the whiskers, and then add the earring finding. So I'm going to keep going in this process. As this is curing, though, I will thank you for attending. Thank you for making it all the way to the end of this class. We hope that you will join us for our next class. We do 3 of these a month, some with UV resin jewelry making, some with polymer clay jewelry making, and sometimes we get to combine them together. And so I hope that you'll join us. All right, so that went for a minute, and I'm going to keep going. Thank you, Cheryl.
Hey, Stephanie, I don't
Yeah.
remember what kind of wire you just used.
Oh,
There was a
yeah.
question.
Yep. This wire, this actually comes in a package of, I think it's like 12 colors, but it's 26 gauge wire. And it
As soon as
only
you
is
said
available
it,
in a multi-pack, I believe. I'm
as soon
not
as
sure.
you said it, I found it.
You found it? Okay,
I
good.
did. I will be putting that in the chat right now for anyone that may be looking at it or looking for it. I know there was a question, so I want to make sure that everybody gets it.
Okay. Thank you, Debbie L. You're awesome. Thank you for always coming to our classes. Oh, I missed that last comment. I wanted to thank them. So thank you, commenter who I didn't read their name fast enough.
That was Daisy Roman.
Thank you, Daisy. All right, let's keep going here. Thank you, Jennifer. We appreciate you. I see you commenting. I think that's probably going to be the last drop that I do on the nose. And then I'm going to switch to putting his heart nose on. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Jen. And I do, even though I want to rush the end of this, I do want to make sure that I'm curing at least 1 full minute in between these drops because it is quite a dark color. So just keep that in mind. We're almost to the end and I always rush, but I'm trying not to rush it. Okay. Let's put his little nose on. So when I do like a final detail like this, sometimes I'll just put a little tiny drop directly on my silicone mat. I'll dip my stick in there and try to pick this up. Let's see if it'll stick. Is that crooked? I can't see. Let's see. Okay, yes. Just to make sure, I'm going to put a little bit more on the sides here, just to make sure that nose is not going to come off. Oh, I picked up the nose with me. It's okay. All right, that's pretty much the last step. All we need to do is add the jump ring and turn that to an earring. All right. Thanks a lot, you guys. You're awesome. We'll see you at the next class. I hope you join us. Bye. Happy Halloween.